Reserve is printing even more money. They dropped interest rates again by another 0.25% today. The only reason Bitcoin's down at $111,000 is because some people were hoping for a 0.5% interest rate cut rather than 0.25%. Happens all the time, but doesn't matter. In the long term, they're printing a ton of money, and that means your wealth and your savings is going to need a place to go where the government is not debasing it, meaning taking its value. So the Federal Reserve also said that they will stop quantitative tightening, which is when they try to unwind their balance sheet. So back during COVID, the Federal Reserve bought a bunch of assets from a bunch of banks using money made up out of thin air, which of course floods that money into the economy. And what they're supposed to do is in the good times, they're supposed to unwind their balance sheet, which means sell the assets that are on their balance sheet back into the economy. And I don't know what it is, 7-8 trillion. I think at the peak it was like $9 trillion. I don't know, something like that. But anyway, what the Federal Reserve has said is they are going to stop as of December 1. They will stop selling assets off their balance sheet. And when they sell assets off their balance sheet, in a small way, they are sucking US dollars back out of the economy. So now they're doing two things that are both inflationary as of December 1st. One, they're cutting interest rates, which means printing more money. And two, they are stopping quantitative tightening on December 1st, which also means basically the dollars that would have been pulled out of the economy to try to make up for their profligate spending and insanity related to COVID, they're going to stop pulling those dollars out of the economy by stopping selling assets off their balance sheet. In both cases, both are very inflationary because both result in more US dollars chasing the same number of goods and services, which is what causes inflation. When you double the money supply and the amount of stuff you can buy with the money is the same, the prices all double. That's how that works. Inflation is caused by government money printing. Now, in the short term, it can also be caused by supply chain imbalances and a bunch of stuff. But the structural inflation, meaning the inflation that just keeps going and never stops, which is the vast majority of inflation that we've ever experienced, is caused by the government money printer. The government prints on average 7% more dollars every single year, which means the total amount of US dollars in circulation doubles about every 7 years. Or I should say every 10 years. It's the law of 72. So if you're printing 7%, it doubles every 10 years. If you're printing 10%, it doubles every 7 years. So it's doubling every 10 years at a 7% more US dollars printed every year. And so those extra dollars are chasing goods and services, and which means the value of the US dollars held by everyone who holds US dollars or who works for US dollars is dropping. So what can you do to protect yourself? You can buy Bitcoin, because the number one thing that goes up when the US dollar is losing its value is Bitcoin, because it is the easiest thing to buy. It is universal. It is worldwide. And the only reason you can get it on sale right now for $111,000 is because there was a group of investors that are speculating, day trading, effectively cryptocurrencies, that were hoping for a 50 basis point rate cut, which is 1/2 of a percentage point. The Federal Reserve did exactly what every sane person thought they were going to do, which was cut by 1/4 of a percentage point. And the people that were speculating short term dumped that Bitcoin that they bought yesterday in case the Fed cut interest rates by 0.5%, and they dumped it today when the Fed only cut interest rates by 0.25%. In the end of the day, so what? They're going to cut interest rates another 0.25% like in a month and a half or 2 months. Before the end of the year, they're cutting interest rates at least one more time. More money printing. It only goes one way. The story is always the same. So buy as much Bitcoin as you can before your US dollars loses value and everything else you got, US dollars in loses value. Bitcoin is the best reflection of currency debasement, as Jack Mallers says. And the best way to protect yourself is by buying as much Bitcoin as you can and holding on to it for as long as conceivably possible.